Welcome back to another video. If it's your first time, thanks for tuning in. And if it's your first time, I would suggest going back and watching the 4 videos before this one. That way you can catch up to date, because we are pretty far along on this now, and anything here forward might confuse you, so you might want to go back and learn how we actually got to this point right here. But this is the channel that we do nothing but pretty much everything automotive painting, anything pretty much car related is what we do on this channel. So if you like that kind of stuff, make sure you subscribe to get all the new video content that's coming out. That way you're notified, and then like the videos, that way this content can get out to other people as well. Trying to grow this thing a little bit. Not expecting it to get like really huge or anything like that, but I think this stuff could be really informative and educational to a lot of people out there trying to get into, whether it's airbrushing or painting or anything automotive related. I think they would really benefit from some of the stuff that I show, because I don't do really any crazy editing. I might, every once in a while, you might see me do like a time-lapse video or something, or I might add in like an intro and outro music or something like that, but I don't ever cut any of my content. What you guys see is exactly what I'm doing, if that makes any sense. I do not cut anything. I do not try to reformat anything to make it look better for you guys. This is kind of like raw footage, so anything you guys see is what I'm actually going through as I'm doing it. If I mess up, you're gonna see it, you're gonna see me correct it and move on from there. So make sure you just like the videos, that way other people can get involved with them, because we need to see more of this stuff. It's not really, it's kind of like a dying art is what most people say, but there are a lot of great artists out there doing pretty much the same things. Me, I take a little bit different approach to it, because I've been doing it for over 2 decades now, between airbrushing and actually painting cars. I am very much one of the only few ones that I know that can do pretty much everything. When I say everything is full-time, I work in a collision shop. I do insurance work. I'm the paint tech there. Been doing that for a long time. So I've been around the industry for a very long time, so I know a lot on that end, as well as I can also paint a car overall, change colors, do all that stuff, graphics, you name it, I can do it, and as well as the airbrush stuff. So I can do all that stuff. Most guys, they either just focus on the airbrush part, or they're really good at doing graphics and they just do graphics and they don't know how to paint a car. Or some of them just know how to paint a car, but they don't know anything else. They just kind of stick to their profession of like specialties. And me, I just do pretty much everything, because it's that I was a DIYer a long time ago when I first started getting to painting the cars. And I was actually started airbrushing way before I started to actually paint cars. I started painting cars on the side for friends and things like that while I was trying to learn to airbrush, but airbrushing was like the very first thing that got me into the automotive scene as far as the painting part goes. So if you like all that stuff, and then sometimes I'll sprinkle in a little bit of the like the engine stuff, because I do my own work on my own cars. So I do a lot of performance stuff to my own stuff, so sometimes I'll sprinkle some of that stuff in. So if you like anything, pretty much anything automotive related, you're in the right spot, because you're probably going to learn a little bit if you've never really actually done any of this. So just stick with me, and go back through that catalog of videos I got out. I've got pretty few. I mean, there's actually a lot of videos that I've posted out on this YouTube channel, so there should be a little bit of content for everybody. But being that it is pretty much raw, you see what you see, you get what you get. It's not really fancy. I don't do anything really fancy with my videos. So it might be a little bit harder to watch some things, because I film it and go, and I do my thing. Most of the stuff that I do is for clients, customers of mine. Just like this tailgate, this is actually a customer of mine that wanted this done on his truck that he is restoring. So a lot of the stuff is customer related things, so sometimes I don't take the amount of effort to make sure the videos are set up correctly. I'm just trying to get the overall project done, because a lot of these customers are on a timeline. So this one, not so much. He just wants this to turn out really awesome, so we're taking our sweet time with this one, and then we're going to do some really cool content with it to make sure we film it. That way he has something to look back on down the road. So this is going to be, I think, the 5th video for this one. So like I said, go back and watch the other 4 to catch up. And they're not really short videos either, since I don't really do any editing. They're pretty long. All my videos are pretty long. So if you can, stay and watch the whole thing, watch the whole thing, because I sprinkle in little bits and pieces here and there. That way you guys can actually learn something from this instead of just watching somebody paint something, if that makes any sense. And that's one of the differences in my channel, that I'll actually show you exactly what I'm going through and exactly what it takes to do some of this stuff. So let me get a drink here, and we're gonna proceed on to getting this thing to the next step. So last video we left off on was doing the yellow. On camera, I noticed that looks more green than it does yellow, which is fine, because all this yellow down here is actually going to be a grass field, and then the sky is going to be a sunset. So the yellowish green kind of works in our advantage. But today we are going to continue on with the grass. Now you might think that it looks complete, it looks done, it looks awesome, and it does, but we're just going to raise that bar a little bit higher by actually adding in some more color to it, making the highlights pop and the shadows have more depth to them. So how I'm going to do that is, I've decided that I'm going to do all my green shading, most of it. If I need to change a color, I will, but most of it's going to be done in this organic green KK09. This is a candy concentrate. This is not a base. It is a true candy. So I have mixed that up with my transnebuli wet bed is what I call it. It's a clear base coat to kind of make it more of a base coat. It'll lay out better. And I'm running all this through my airbrush, and then I over reduced it because I want to build these colors up. If you know anything about true KK candies, I'm trying not to say KKK, but KK candies, the more you put on, the brighter the color gets. So there's multiple different levels of intensity and the shading and the values of the color you're using. So I over reduced it, not by a lot, just by a little bit. For one, I need to be able to run it through the airbrush, and for two, I want to grab all of those different layers of values in that KK candy green that we're going to use, and just build up off of that without. What I'm trying to do is really not go through and make 4 or 5 different greens up. That's kind of what I'm trying not to do. I'm really trying to figure out and see for myself how much intensity we can get out with just using one candy. So I'm going to set you guys up kind of over to the side here, and then I'm going to show you guys how I'm going to be focusing on doing this, because even though we got the mind-numbing part done as far as like putting every little piece of grass in here, and on camera it looks like, I mean, it's every little single piece I did by hand. So if you haven't seen that go back and watch the videos, you'll understand what I'm talking about. I literally went through one by one and just put all these textured pieces in here to make it look like grass. So I don't want to take away from that. I want to add to it. So you can kind of see, kind of down here, you can see kind of rolling up here where it looks like more of a shadow. Same thing with over here, it looks like more of a shadow. And this plane right here in the middle is kind of got a hilly, it's not totally straight either. So with that being in the forefront, this is kind of in the background. So it's going to cast a shadow against that background, as well as with the sunset coming down and bouncing off, we got the highlights on top of these hills. So we want to kind of play with that and play not against it, but add just to it, if that makes sense to you. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be focusing more. I'm not going to just sit here and blast it. I've already got my needle cap taken off. That way I can get closer if I need to. But you got to be really careful with candies. You can streak them. If you ever seen somebody paint an overall on a candy and they just didn't do a good job and it's poorly done, you can tell that we call it tiger striping, to where they didn't overlap their passes. You can get the same effect at, you get even easier through an airbrush if you get really, really close and start doing lines and start adding over top of it. You're going to see those lines. So you still got to be careful doing so. So we're just going to take it really slow and slowly build up these layers. So I'm going to pretty much focus on the shadowed areas first and kind of just let the overspray, if you will, hit the lighter areas. And then when I'm ready to, if I need to, hit the lighter areas where the light's actually bouncing off of these hills, I can do that, and then it'll still be separated. It'll be lighter than it will be on the shadows, if that makes any sense, because the more paint you put down with the candy, the darker essentially it's going to get. So I'm not really trying to kill it. I'm just trying to bring out that more of that green. I mean, I barely put anything down. You can kind of see it changing already. Let's see if you guys can pick that up on camera. It looks pretty good. I'm constantly checking back. I'm leaning back a lot. I'm not really super close with it right now because I don't need to be. So I'm constantly looking back, and then I'll look at the camera to see how you guys are viewing it as well. And sometimes I'll move the camera around if I need to, just to be able to capture what would be better for you guys for the view. I'm just really focused on that, punching these darker shadows back further. I'm liking how that's looking. I'm liking how that's all looking out. So I'm going to try to get a little bit darker of a green inside of some of these heavier areas that are going to be shadowed. So now I've pretty much got it to where I like it. There might be some areas that I want to darken up a little bit. But for the most part, I like how it's kind of the contrast of it. So now I'm just gonna lightly kind of dust into the yellow parts just to kind of change it from that yellow to a little bit of a green. And that right there just makes it pop more just by doing a little bit of that. And when I'm doing this, I'm trying to envision how I want the highlights from the sunset to hit the grass. So I'm trying to stay away from those really bright areas. But I am going to go back. It's not really that big of a deal if I do hit some of them like I am right now, because I am going to go back and with like a more of a brighter yellow and actually do the highlights of like the final highlights when I have the sunset and everything done. That way I can bounce all the other colors from the sunset off of the grass. So that way most of those are probably going to be candies, because I really want the sunset to be rich. So I'm going to probably do most of that in candies, like a tangerine orange. It'll make it, you know, against this yellow, you can make a really bright orange with it and still keep that different shades and values of orange with it. So that's my idea with this whole thing, is to make it really bright in the light, to make it where it's just shining against, lighting everything up pretty much, and all those colors from the sunset are just bouncing off the mountains, bouncing off the semi, bouncing off the road even, and the hills and everything else. So we are going to go back in. I mean, this is like one layer of what I want to do as far as like colors go. It's just with the candy, I can honestly, you can pull out a lot more different values of green with the candy, because you're adding layers, and once you add layers, you can see like it gets super rich. The more you put on, the darker it gets. And since it's on top of a yellow, the yellow is not dark enough to where it's gonna kill and make it black. It's just gonna make it a little bit more darker than it would if it was on top of this brighter yellow. I mean, I could go through here and add layers and layers and layers of this stuff, switching back from yellow to like a white to like a green to candies to all these sorts of colors. But with the candy itself, I can almost do that without doing all those other colors on top of it. So now I want to switch to this side. I'm liking how that side's looking. So now we're going to do the same on this side. We got to figure out how that lighting from the sunset is going to come down and kind of wrap around this mountain right here and kind of make all this glow, but then trickle off down here and make a darker kind of like a shadow, just like these areas over here. It gives you that illusion that these mountains are not just 2D, they're 3D. So they got shadows and highlights, and it makes the light roll around them and the shadows roll around where they need to go. It's almost like you're creating an illusion within the picture to get it to not look so flat and give it some life. Because ultimately that's what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to give this idea, this concept of what the customer has in his head some life, and just take it to that next level. And right here, you could see that I did not put a lot of yellow in here, because if the sunset is coming out this way, the semi is going to cast a shadow kind of going at an angle like this. So it's going to almost have a shadow casting off of the ground that you need to actually capture. So I didn't put a lot of yellow in this spot right here for that reason. It's gonna be like more of a darker green, and then at the final, kind of like the final step of like finalizing everything and fixing any issues or any cleanup issue that we have, at that time I'll go through and I'll just start adding the little bits of kind of like the final form of everything, and add that kind of like that shadow on top of it. But now we're just creating it with the green. So trying to just establish how exactly it's going to look right now without actually adding the kind of like without adding the correct color to it, I guess, if you will. And to be honest with you, you really don't need, I mean, I don't really need to go back through and add black to it. I can do it with this green if I really wanted to, but I think if you go and look at shadows of everything, no matter what color is getting covered, that shadow still casts a darker, not like a rich black, but just kind of like a toned down black to it. So if you need to find references all around you. So just look at, you don't even have to look at exactly what you're doing. you can look at how shadows are casting against anything and figure out just how they're actually pulling off what they're doing. Kind of liking how that's going. This gray color for the factory color that, well, it's not really, it's a factory color, but it's not factory for this truck. But this gray, kind of Nardo gray color is like almost perfect for adding candies and things on top too, because it's just going to catch it. And right now where we're doing the shadows, it's just a good, because it's already a darker color, right? Like this gray is a darker gray. So it's already catching this green and making it its own shadow. So it's actually helping create what we're trying to create without actually trying too hard, I guess, the way to put it, or without adding a ton of paint. Because if this background was white, like say if this truck was white, right, and I need to kind of create a shadow, and you guys saw the videos before if you've been watching them all and how I've been creating this, I would have to do it a little bit differently than how I went about doing this grass. I would almost have to, before I did the yellow, go in and do a little bit of black shading with an over-reduced black to kind of create those shadows. And then do the yellow. That way, when I put the green over it, it's gonna hit that black. If I would not do that, and if it was white and I would just leave them white and I would just go out and like I did on this, and then added the candy over top, all these areas where that gray was kind of showing through, like down here, you can kind of still see the gray a little bit. That candy would hit that white and it would be a really bright green. So I would have to, if I didn't do the black, I would have to go back in and really put a lot of candy down in those areas to get that candy to look darker like this over here. You would have to add a ton of candy. So with this gray being a darker color, I don't have to add as much paint as I would if it was a lighter color. So it's actually helping really nice. It's coming together really quickly, which I like. So what I did just there was, like, this is a highway, right? So if you go and look at a road, like when nobody's going on it, go up to a highway and it's got that edge of that asphalt built up. So there's quite a few inches of depth right there that's built up as layers, right? So what that's going to do is it's going to create a shadow from that edge and roll over to the side. So I'm just adding a little, I don't need it much. I don't want to darken it out, but I'm just adding a little bit of, kind of like creating my own shadow right there. That way you get that illusion. Like I said, illusion is the main key. We're making the eye feel like it's being tricked with what we're doing. So that's like the biggest part of doing this stuff, is you need to trick the eye to make it see what you needed to make it see within that picture. So just by doing that little bit of shadow, it tells you, hey, like this is actually up higher than what this is. And that sun that's coming down on that road, it's going to create a little bit of a shadow line going through there. All right, I'm liking that. I think it's coming out really, really cool. I'm constantly still jumping back in my chair, getting a good preview from a distance away, because when you're constantly up here like this, you almost lose sight of what you're actually doing. So I'm constantly just jumping back and viewing it at a different angle, further back. So now I'm going to do the same thing when I did this side. I'm trying to not put so much on the highlighted areas, but I still want to get them a little bit of color of that green. Like this organic green is just, it's perfect for this. And you don't see it now, but when this thing gets clear coated, because we are going to clear coat all this, candies just, they intensify underneath clear coat. So if you ever seen a candy painted car like one full color, it looks like a lollipop, right? Like the edges of it, the inner side, or the edges of it look darker, but when you look in the center of it, you can see through it, right? And that's the true definition of a candy, is it's a transparent, pretty much like a base, not really a base, but it's a urethane, KK, candy concentrate, to where it looks dark as a whole. That's the edge of the sucker, and then towards the center, as it's thinning itself out, you can almost see right through it, and you get that rich color from it. And I just ran out of candy, so I need to make some up real quick. Not a big deal. It takes a few seconds to do so. I can probably honestly, I'll just add some more, because I don't have much left to put down, so I can probably use what's left in the cup and just mix it up with some reducer and some transnud to actually blend everything out. Because like I said, I don't want to cover everything up. I don't want it all to be one solid green. This is probably going to be perfect. I could probably blast this stuff and it'll be exactly what I'm looking for. I think I need to add a little bit of candy to it. Thought I could get away with not adding candy to the mixture, but it's just not. It's almost coming out clear, so I need to add a little bit of drops to it. All right. Just mix it up here. So, like this top of this mountain, or this top of this hill right here before the mountain, it's probably going to be almost, it's probably not going to have a lot of light. It might have a little bit of light right here coming through, but the mountain's going to cast a shadow against that. Same thing like over here. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Way over here on this side, some of these mountains are going to start casting shadows. So I need to put that in there. Just like that. And same thing with some of these hills. Like this road is going down and then it continues on down here. So it's not going to do it so much here as it is over here. But some of these hills are going to cast a shadow against the other grass. So we need to kind of put that in there, if you will. That way you can read it as, hey, that hill is pretty much in front of it or behind it, and it's casting a shadow that's taller than the other one. Kind of fade it where you like it. And I'll give you guys a kind of a step back view of it here in a minute. because it's looking really, really cool. Right now I'm just kind of blasting it, if you will, and I'm doing that because I've already established my dark areas and I've already established my light areas. I'm just trying to stay away from the lighter areas. I'm trying to make it look three-dimensional than what it is. So we are now out of candy, so I'm gonna put some thinner in my gun, my airbrush, and want to clean it out. We're gonna let this candy sit while we're talking here and cleaning the airbrush out, because I want it to fully dry. So, and I'll teach you a little bit about candies here if I haven't already. So the one thing that is hard with, it's not really hard, but you got to understand, is if you put a candy on a surface and you're trying to put more colors on top of it, you're going to have to understand, like, for instance, if I go back through and I try to do highlights, let's say I make up a lighter yellow with the same yellow I used and put a little bit of white in it to make it a little bit lighter to give it the highlights. It is going to, that green, it's going to absorb that white, that yellow white that I just made up, and it's going to turn that white to whatever green that's on top of it. So it's not going to fully take its full shape as far as the value goes in the color of that green, but it's going to turn it just a little bit. So a way to remedy that is you're going to either understand what you're doing and figure out that, you know, like for me on this part, like right now, I don't need to go back through and do highlights just yet, right? I'm going to do that at the very end anyways. I always do the highlights and stuff like that at the end. But when I go through and do that, I am not too worried about it because I've already established my highlights. So I tried to keep that candy away from those areas. So I don't really need to worry about that in this case. Now, if I go through and I start adding highlights down here, I have to understand that it's not going to be what I think it's going to be if it wasn't right here in the highlighted areas already. So I know that. I've done this millions of times. But if you're just starting out and you're wondering why your colors you're putting on top of your candy are changing, and that candy is absorbing that new color and it's turning it to whatever color it wants to, because I mean, if I put like a blue on top of this, it's going to turn it a different color than it would if it was a white, right? So it's just going to do different things because a white is a lighter color than a blue. So it's just going to do different things with different colors. So I know that, but the way you're going to remedy that is what you would want to do if you do have to keep adding layers and layers and layers and layers on top of this, is you're going to have to put some type of sealant over top of it. And a lot of people will use is what we call intercoat clear. They will spray a coat down of intercoat clear over the areas that they need to put more color. For one, it traps everything underneath of it, so it's kind of like protecting it. And for two, it creates that barrier to where your new color is not going to soak through and get to those candies. So it's going to create that barrier on top, you know, on top of what we already have. So that is one way to do it. Me personally, I don't need to do that in this case because, like I said, I've already stayed away from the areas that I'm going to put highlights in anyways. And if I do end up, let's say like right here, I end up putting like a highlight, just a little bit of highlight right here, like because the light is actually hitting this and it might be reflecting off of this, right? So you can tell I put a little bit of candy here, a little bit more than what I did up here, right? So I know it's going to change a little bit, but that's kind of like I want it to do that. I don't want it to be really that bright right here because it's not going to be a fully bright because this mountain is actually casting a shadow and it's gonna knock out most of that light going that way anyway. So just understand that and what you're doing, and pay attention to what you're doing, and you can get away with things without creating like a barrier. Like sometimes you'll see guys doing like graphics on cars, and you'll see them clear coat it and then they'll sand it back down and add another They're doing that to create a barrier for that next color of what they're doing, and to protect everything underneath of it. So that's just a little bit of a educational experience for you if you're never messed with candy colors before. They will bleed through 100% onto other colors that you're trying to put over top of it. So not a big deal. Don't freak out. You just need to understand that you need that barrier there to protect what you're putting over top of it, if you need to do so. Me, not so much. I don't need to in this one. So now I'm going to make up, I could almost show you guys what I'm talking about. I don't really need to do it though, that's the thing. I can make up more of that yellow that I was just explaining to you guys by adding a little bit of white in it. We'll do it. I'll show you guys. I'll just do it. I don't like doing highlights until the very end, but why not, right? I've talked about it. You guys are probably interested in seeing it. And if I need to do it again at the end, I can. It's not going to hurt anything. So, got my white. It's just straight up white. I just put, I mean, depending on how much paint you need to mix up, I'll show you guys. It's just a little bit of yellow in there. I mean, it's not much. And then what I'll do is I'll just try to put like a couple drops. It's kind of hard to pour out of a bottle like this, so I'll try to catch it. Come on. 1, 2, I'll put 3 in there. 3. So you guys can actually see what I'm actually talking about, because you can benefit from a bleeding candy. Like I said, it all depends on what you're doing. If you're doing artwork, depending on what, it just all depends. I mean, there's so many variables to it. Like this, in this case, it's going to work with me instead of against me. So I'm not really too concerned about doing it right now. So I'll just show you. And another thing about candies, especially when you're spraying it through an airbrush, it can cause a lot of overspray. So you'll see me periodically, I like to tack my surfaces off and keep them clean. Because like, one thing about airbrushing, right? It took me a long time to figure out how to kind of pull it off. But when I first started airbrushing, like, let's say it's 22 years ago, when I first started airbrushing, had no clue what I was doing. I took a couple classes, I learned a lot, but I could never get like my surface to feel like a sanded down clear coat. Like this are up here, like this is just sanded down clear coat. I could never get it to feel like that when I put paint on top of it. It was always really, it wasn't like really too gritty, but it wasn't smooth. So it took me a long time to figure out how to lay paint through an airbrush and get it to lay really, really smooth. and it's actually fairly easy concept, to be honest with you. And the reason why I'm saying this is when I get done with this, I am clear coating it. Nobody else is clear coating it. I am clear coating it. So when your paint lays smooth, as far as like there's no overspray on there, there's no dirt, your paint's laying down really slick like it is here, you can kind of, you almost can't feel it, right? It's really, really slick and smooth. And since I am clear coating this, and it needs clear coated, when I go and put clear coat on it, I don't have to worry about putting so much material on it to bury anything really. It's just gonna be like I painted a car and I'm just putting clear coat on it to bury, to kind of just cover what I just put down. If it was really gritty and it was rough and you had to put clear coat over top of it, you're gonna clear it, it's gonna dry, and you're gonna automatically think somebody just came in there and just threw a bunch of dirt on it, because it's gonna have so much of that solvent base sticking up through the clear coat. It's almost gonna look like a bunch of dirt was just thrown on top of it, which just makes your life, I wouldn't say it makes it a living hell, but it does cause a lot of more time and effort to get down to lay down smooth, because you're gonna have to clear it, you're gonna have to let it dry, bake, sand it down all the way, get it all flat as you can, clear it again, sand it down, and probably put another 2 coats of clear on it, and then wet sand and buff it to get it to where it's flat. So the more you're able to clean your surface off with the tack rag, figure out your mixture, because that's all it is. It's your mixture of how you mix paint is how your paint's gonna lay down. So once you figure out your mixture and keeping your area clean that you're actually painting, the better your life will be when you go to clear coat it, because it's gonna make it that much easier. It's not gonna cause a lot of issues. It's gonna be just like you're clear coating anything else. If you ever clear coated anything, automotive wise, like a car or like a bike or something like that, it's just gonna be like you just painted it, it's ready for clear coat, we're gonna clear it. And it took me a while to figure out. I thought it was always like the paints themselves, and you'll see that. I see people online all the time, this paint is terrible, you know, it's not laying right, it's really, really nasty. It's whatever excuse they want to make up, you'll see it online. And it's like, no, it's not technically the paint. It is the paint. I mean, technically, I guess you could blame it on the paint, but it's technically not, if you want to get really technical with it. It's the way you're mixing paint, and it's got a little bit to do with the way you are spraying it. If you're blasting it all over the place and just going crazy from far away, it is going to be a lot more rough to the touch, and it's going to look rough. So you almost need to figure that out. That's like one of the first things I would say. If you're wanting to get into airbrushing, the hardest thing is to figure out your mixtures of paint. That is the hardest thing. That's the most thing you're gonna spend time on. I mean, you're gonna spend a lot of time on how to use the airbrush and use it in ways that you see other people using it. It's gonna take you a long time to do all that too, but to actually figure out your paint mixtures and how to actually apply it in a way that it's like really, really smooth, it's gonna take you some time, trust me. I always tell people the first 5 years of me painting was just me figuring things out and messing everything up. I tell people that all the time. Now, am I being totally honest? Not really, because I didn't necessarily spend 5 years screwing everything up, just trying to figure it out. But it did take me a long time to figure out how I wanted to create some of the things that I wanted to create. And when you, and I think it's personally good. It's a really good way to go through something, even though it sucks, but it teaches you a lot about what you're wanting to do. Like, if you're wanting to paint cars, I've been painting cars for a very long time. I can pretty much do it with my eyes closed if I knew where I was going. I mean, I'm just like a robot in that aspect. And I can tell you right now, you'll learn more by messing up stuff than you will if you just automatically did everything perfectly the first time around. So almost like I'm trying to say, almost with you screwing up, you're going to learn everything just by screwing up, if that makes sense, because it's true. You're going to learn more of the ins and outs. You're going to learn more how to fix things in a timely manner. You're going to learn about your products a lot quicker by messing them up. I mean, you're going to learn. It's crazy how much you learn by failing over and over again. And I'm speaking from experience. Take that how you want, but it's true. It is true, it is true, so. I don't know if you guys can see this, the way it's going, but I just put some right here. You see it's like not yellow like this because this was already yellow. It's turning it a little bit of a green, which is fine. It gives it another value to the painting, which can be really cool. That's when you start pulling off, like, I wouldn't say hyper realistic or anything like that, but that's when you start pulling off really cool, almost real photos. Just like right there. I'm gonna step you. I mean, I've only done this little bit right here, and then some over here. But I'm gonna step back and let you guys see everything, how I see it. I'm gonna see if I can get a good enough. Trying to give you guys not a headache, you know, I don't want you guys to feel motion sickness while me doing this. But you guys can see how it's gonna look. Like it's looking really nice. So that is the goal. Put some right here. And I've got my glasses on today so I can really see. I'm getting to that age, guys, where, you know, I've always had glasses my whole life. My entire life I've had to wear contacts or glasses. But I'm getting to that age where it's like, man, I don't even want to deal with the contacts. I'd rather just have my glasses because I can see things that I would not be able to see with my contacts. Because I am almost that blind. That's what you get when you sit close to the TV as a kid. So don't do that. If you're a kid and you're watching this, don't sit close to the TV. You'll ruin your eyes. Right now I'm just trying to create like a the light source of where it's like bouncing off the surface from the sunset. That's all I'm doing, is just trying to create that. A little bit of highlight. by using this over diluted yellowish white. Man, that looks... I'm gonna charge this customer twice just because of how awesome this is looking. He watches the videos, so I'm sure he's gonna text me and be like, "Ah, you're not charging me double, are you?" No, I stick to my word. Everything I do it by the hour, so I'm relatively cheap in that manner. But I do like to put my time and effort into everything I do. So there are some projects where I can spend almost 100 hours or so. Some paintings I would love to spend a whole year just doing one painting and see what I could actually do. I've never done that before. So I would like to, I mean, if you're a client and you don't care about what something costs, but you want something one-off and unique that nobody else will have, and you're willing to give me a whole year of me just working on it off and on, hit me up. Because I would love to do something to really put some effort, some like majorly over effort into it, and do something that's just crazy in a course of a year, and have one paint, like my best painting I've ever done over a course of a year. But I do charge by the hour. I'm relatively cheap compared to everybody else. I'm probably the cheapest airbrush artist on the planet right now. And the only reason why I'm saying this is because I do have a full-time job. I paint cars. Like I said in the beginning of this video, I'm able to kind of be cheaper to give people more opportunity to get things like this done by me, because that is the goal. You know, when you are doing this type of work, like airbrushing, obviously you need to make a living at it, right? That's everybody's number one goal, is to make a living doing something they love, right? So you have to charge enough to make a living. But you also have to be able to put out something that people will buy, that isn't so, because nowadays people frown upon, for some reason, they think everything is expensive no matter what you charge them. They automatically know, or they automatically think that what they know is true, and they think they should know what everything should cost, pretty much. And it's really hard to sell this, being an airbrush artist. I mean, you can go do t-shirts all day long if you want and make a decent living at it, but if you really want to make a living at doing something like this, you're gonna have to be like really, really mindful of your prices and your time you put into it. So knocking something out really, really quickly at a higher hourly rate or a higher rate is probably going to benefit you, but it might not be your best work. So you you got to find that happy medium almost. So with me being able to work full time, I can come out here, charge somebody by the hour. If you're wondering what I charge, it's $40 an hour plus the materials that I use. So any type of paint, tape, anything that I have to buy in order to do the project is added on top afterwards, after the hour bill is built up. So $40 an hour is stupid cheap. Like, it's so cheap, people are telling me I should just go work at McDonald's instead of doing this. And those people don't know me, obviously. They don't have a clue of what I do, but I make a really good living painting cars, so I'm able to bring my prices down just a little bit and still do this for people. Now one day I'm gonna have to stop painting cars. Can't paint cars forever, right? You can try, but it's just your body's gonna break down and weird things are gonna start happening to you. So you're gonna have to step away from the painting car part, and then if I decide to do this full time, then that's when I can raise my prices back up. Or if you do have a really low hourly rate or entry rate to get somebody in your door, if it's super low like I am right now, and you're just trying to get work in, once you get busy, you can actually raise that rate back up, because obviously you need time to do your stuff. So you're gonna have to start charging more to get people more quality work in the door, rather than just people slamming you with nonsense all the time, because you'll always stay busy with nonsense. It's the cool things you want to do and the things that are actually going to benefit you that you need to focus on. But at first, to get people in the door, to get things rolling, you might have to lower your rate just to get stuff flowing. And once it starts flowing, you can start, raising your rates. And as you get better, if you are starting out doing paint, anything really, anything in life, if you're starting out doing something, once you get rolling and you get more knowledge about it and you get quicker, you can actually charge by what you want. So that's how that works. But I'm just kind of going backwards because I can. Because I can. And that kind of just shows you how much I like doing this. I mean, some days it's kind of hard some days, because especially right now I've got a 2-month-old and it's our first kid, so I want to spend all the time I want or I can with him. So my motivation isn't like as strong as it used to be, but watching him grow up is kind of like motivation in itself to get me to do better. So I'm trying to kind of find that sweet spot, because I want to spend all my time with them, but yet I know I can't, because I need to get stuff like this rolling and done. So yeah, it's kind of it's tricky right now, but we'll get through it. But it's just, like I said, I was meaning to say, it just shows you what type, it shows you what, if somebody's really interested in doing something, they will do anything they can to do that thing that they want to do. Nothing is going to stop them. Nothing at all. So those are the type of people that you want to have your stuff done by, because they're going to do a really good job, because they just love doing it. And really, money's not really a factor to some people. Obviously, like I said, you got to make money to live and whatnot, but if you know who Michael Valley is, he said it best. He's, if I didn't have to make a living, I'd be doing this for free. And that's kind of how I feel. Even though I do like money, I like getting paid for, because it's kind of like a self-gratitude thing, right? When you get paid to do something and you do it well, you can make a lot of money off of it. So when somebody's willing to pay you to do something, it kind of boosts your ego a little bit, because you know, hey, I did a really good job. He's willing to pay me for that. And then after you get done with that, he's going to tell his buddies are going to come to you, and it's just going to be a snowball effect. And that's when you know you found where you need to be. And that's how I kind of came to be about a painter. Word of mouth spreads like wildfire, quicker than anything else will. I don't know how long I've been doing this right now, but I'm gonna check the camera to see where it's rolling at. We're at 1 hour and 12 minutes right now. So a little bit longer than what I wanted to spend on this, to be honest with you. But I want to show you, I wanted to walk you guys through everything that I'm doing on this, because this piece means a lot to the customer and I want to do a really good job on it. So I know it would make really good footage of everything. So I just want to kind of walk you through as much as I can. And it's just, when you get to this point, as you're just like messing around, kind of, I call it messing around, but I'm not really messing around. I'm really focused on what I'm doing, but to me, it's messing around because I'm just playing with it to see how far I can pull it and push it. To me, that's the fun part. It's when all these little details start to add up, is when it gets really, really super fun. Because now, if I step you guys back, I mean, I'm just pulling out details left and right. It's making it rich. And to me, that's the funnest part, is when you get it to that certain point that you know you're going in the right direction, and you can start messing around with doing things you haven't done before, and you can just start toying with the way it looks. You can take it one direction, or you can take it somewhere differently. But I think I'm gonna kind of leave it the way it is right now. I don't want to overkill it because we still have to add in the all of the colors from the sunset in. So I don't want to muddy it up, because you can muddy up a picture very, very quickly if you're not paying attention and you're getting a little bit of carried away with what you're doing. You can muddy something up and make it really bland really quickly. So it's best just to walk away from it and not just keep putting paint on it, because you can do that fairly quickly. And once you get to that point, it's hard to go back. So I'm really liking the way this is looking. So I'm going to pretty much call this grass done for now. And then we're going to start doing the mountains. So we're going to chisel these back out. Chisel the mountains back out, and then the sky will be pretty much the last. I was trying to figure out if I want to do the sky first or the mountains, but I want to leave the sky to the last part, because I want to be able to use those colors that I'm using in the sunset everywhere else. So it'll just make sense to me to just go ahead and let's finish the mountains up. And then we can pretty much tape everything else off and do the sunset. I'm just cleaning my airbrush out right now. But comment down below if you like this and that we you know, we're pretty much, I wouldn't say it's completely done as far as the grass goes. Like I said, we still got to add color and things like that, and I might add a really, really bright highlight in certain areas still. And then obviously we got to cast that shadow like I was talking about before at the end. But comment down below what you think so far. There's not a lot of people that comment on these videos, so I'm trying to figure out why you're not commenting. So just let me know down below what you think, or if you have any questions. I'm pretty much an open book type of person, as long as you don't ask anything really stupid or try to make me mad for no reason. I will answer anything you throw at me. I've got a lot of experience, so I pretty much have done almost everything in the book that you can think of, and that just comes with the years of doing this stuff. So you're not gonna, you know, if you're asking me a legit question, you think it's a stupid question, but yet you're wanting to learn this, I'll help you out and try to answer it the best way I can through a comment. Because sometimes things you can't really translate things very well through messaging than if you could in real life, but we could try, right? We can try. I'm not opposed to it. I'm not one of those people that's gonna beat you up too bad about asking a question, whether it's right or wrong. Just don't be stupid with it. So I think we're gonna keep on rolling with this video. I've got about 50% left, so usually on my GoPro, when I hit about 50%, it goes so quick. The battery does, that is. So I try to not stretch it out. I try not to do long videos because people don't like to watch or just sit here and look at their TV or their phone or whatever for that long. But we're just going to keep this thing rolling, and I need to figure out what colors I need for the mountain. So that's one thing I need to figure out real quick, of how I want this to look. To be honest with you, I wasn't really thinking about it. So I'm gonna simply pause you guys, and I'll come right back and we'll continue off where we left from. All right, so we are back. All I did was kind of just look up some reference photos to different mountain tops that had snow coverage, but also had kind of like a sunset background to them, just to give myself an idea of where I needed to go with the color, because I could have done anything pretty much. Mountains can be darkish brownish, different types of browns. It could be different types of like tan colors, but since they're way off in the background, I want to make them look like they're way off in the background. So all those bright colors you're not going to really see until we put the sunset colors over top of it. So what I'm going to simply do is work off the gray that I already have, and I made up a gray, kind of like a bluish, blackish, grayish color here, and we're gonna just build off of that and make sure this thing is flowing good. So I'm gonna get you guys pretty close here, get you guys up close and personal to this. So I'm gonna essentially just start by following what I've already got down, because I've already shaded. Even though it's got yellow and stuff all over it, don't worry about all that. We're going to go back through and fix all that. But where the snow is and the highlights are going to be, we've already shaped all that out. All the shadows of the mountain where it's darker, where it's not covered with snow, we've already shaped all that out. So I'm just essentially going to work off of that and not really overthink it. And then once we get the shadows in there, then we can go back through and start adding the snowfall back into it. And this is really going to make these mountains pop, because they're going to be darker. It's going to have a lot of different tones to them. So it's just going to look pretty dang cool, if you ask me. And we can kind of do a little bit more of a stylized mountain if we need to as we go along here. But I'm simply just working off of what I already got. Keeping it simple. And this is where it's going to become really, really cool with everything that we add. I bumped up my air pressure a little bit on this. Give these mountains some character to them. Liking how that's kind of shaping out to be. I'm not really too worried about covering up the white that I already have on here. I'm still chiseling out the areas that I want to have like the snow part in. So I'm not really too worried about being exact with it just yet, because I'm gonna go back in with the white and do different shades of white to really punch those snow caps back out. And the mountains, I really want the mountains to look really, really cool. So I'm gonna spend a lot of time on these just to make them look the way I want them to look. Kind of shade everything back in a little bit. Give those different types of tones. Make it look like the snow's kind of landsliding down the sides of the mountain a little bit. But one thing I got to keep in mind too is because these mountains are so far in the background of all this, is I can't put a ton of detail into it, because then it'll make it look like it's really up close. Even though they're the biggest thing in this picture, we still have to make them look and act like they are very far away. So the details can't be really, I guess, chiseled out is what I'm trying to say. You kind of want to get them to be blurry, but yet not so blurry that it looks like crap. You need to find that balance of detail and blurriness and put it all together to make it look like it needs to be where it's at. I'm liking all that. The one thing I'm cool about doing like nature and like mountains like this is you can most definitely look at a picture and copy it all you want. If you're wanting to do like just a replication of a picture or an image that you really like. But nature will do something different every single time, right? It's never going to have the same look to it. So you can almost create something easier because nature will do what it wants to, and you don't have to stress about getting proportions of everything lined out the way you want it to, like 100%, or it's just gonna, what I'm trying to say is like when you're doing a portrait of like a face, that portrait has to be spot on to that person, right? With mountains, I mean, mountains look different all the time. Like the way the snow falls on them, everything is different about them. So you don't have that restriction like you would on anything else that you do. So it's kind of cool to, I don't do a lot of nature photos, to be honest. So it's kind of cool to do something like this for a change, because I can just create and not have to worry about too much of the sacrificing what it's supposed to actually look like, because it can look like anything you want it to, as long as you stay within the realm of it looking like a mountain. If that makes sense. I don't know, I'm just rambling on now. So liking how that's looking. I might try to kind of dye this down a little bit. And I'm just kind of blasting it right now with this color. Trying to get it all that same tone, not really the same tone, but I know I'm gonna be putting more white on top of this. So I would like to get it to where it's gonna have different tones to it throughout the whole thing. So I'm trying to, what I'm doing is trying to kill it back, I guess. Doesn't look like too much right now, but we're gonna work on that. We'll get it to be looking fairly smooth and slicked up. Get you guys a little bit closer now. Still working off of everything that I've got. I know where I want my dark areas to be. That way when we go back in to work in our lighter colors, we've already established all that needs to be dark. And you might think I'm working, you might look at this and say I'm working backwards, like it was just fine the way the grays were, but you really need to add in your values of everything and get it all solid and uniform, and then you can go back in and kind of do your more of your detailed stuff as you're putting in the lighter colors. That's what I'm doing here. I'm just trying to make everything look uniform. It's nothing more than that. And to be honest with you, nothing's ever really set in stone until you like hand it back to the customer and say, hey, it's done. paint is just paint. So if you ever mess something up and you're like, man, I don't like the way that looks, or whatever, what have you, just know that you can always go back in and fix it. Like, there is no, not, you know, you don't have to settle for what it looks like. You can always go back in and fix it if you got the time to do so. The time is going to be the factor, whether you're doing it for yourself or for a customer. That's you're going to be deciding that yourself. So that's just part of it. Moving right along here to the next one. See if we can't get these. I don't know how much time we got. We've got 32% left on the battery. So we'll see if we can get this one done. So I really wanted you guys to see this, kind of this foundation part before I ended the video. Because the next video will be still kind of tying these mountains in together where they need to be. As far as like the colors and everything else. But there'll be many times to go back and forth on all these colors of these mountains, but to get the base down, I think it's really important to sculpt them out and show you guys, since we were sculpting the grass, this ties right into that. Looks cool. So I know the back side of these mountains are going to be a little bit darker, just because of the way they're facing, so I'm just going to kind of chisel that in. Same thing like up here, these areas are going to be a little bit darker. So I'm not going to really totally block out everything I just did, but I'm just going to kind of just chisel it. get it in there, get it looking cool, and then doing the same thing, just getting all solid and uniform. And then I can do pretty much the highlights, or not the highlights, but the whites of the snow caps. Put those all in there. And then if I need to go back through and hit it with a little bit of a darker, kind of like a darker area in some spots, I can. Not a big deal. I want to give you guys a step back. Just how everything's coming together. I know they look really dark now because I've pretty much, not really blasted, but I've pretty much made everything uniform with that same gray. I knocked all those really bright, they weren't like really super bright, but all the white that I had in there from sculpting it, I knocked all that stuff back. And that's just going to give me another layer of depth to the mountains and the snow caps when I go in and I put that that white back in there. It's not going to be just straight white. It'll have different tones of blues. It'll have a different tone of like different values of gray. And then at the very like the tops of the mountains where I know the sun or the sunset's going to hit it, it's going to have like the brightest whites, so it'll be pretty much just white there, but there's going to be definitely lots and lots of values of whites and blues and grays within the mountain themselves. That way when I go and do the sunset, all those colors will bounce off of that white, and it will just mesh in with everything when I go through and do that sunset. And that's the goal, is to make everything look like it's reflecting off of that sunset and just making everything come to life, and ultimately just making it look real, making it look like when you look at this thing, you're like, man, who painted that? That looks really, really good. The owner will never get tired of looking at this. They can come out and look at it every day and not get sick and tired of it. And that's really the ultimate goal for me, is to make it look like they can be proud of it for a very, very long time and not want to sell their car and keep it forever. So we live in a world where everybody wants to change things up every single day. So if you're an artist and you can keep your customers happy to the fact that they never want to get rid of their stuff, then you're pretty much doing it right. I mean, you're doing the ultimate goal, is to have that piece in that customer's hands for the rest of their life. So I'm just rambling. We have about 20% left on the old GoPro, but I'm just giving you guys the last bit of look before I end this video session. So I just want to thank you again for watching. Hopefully you guys are learning something a little bit new. I know I'm pretty much freehanding everything, but there are different ways. I've got different templates and shields is what we call them, that I can actually use to really pull off tight lines. Freehanding it takes some time to get it going and getting used to the airbrush and pulling it off to pull really fine lines and not make it look like a mess. So there are different ways you can actually airbrush. You don't have to freehand everything. That just comes with time. And that's just, I've been doing this for a very long time, so it's almost like I make it look easier than what it actually is. And it's kind of true, but I'm not the best either. There's guys out there that make me look like I'm drawing with crayons. So there's a lot of good guys out there. Some of them do make YouTube videos. You can go search them up. Scott McKay is one of those guys. He's really good. He's been doing it a lot longer than I have. And I know he does live YouTube videos. of what he does. He does like a weekly feed, or he tries to. He's really good at what he does. There's just a lot of good artists out there. I mean, there's a ton of guys that are really, really good at what they do, and that's kind of where I draw my inspiration from. I kind of pick and choose what I like and kind of mold it to myself, and I run with it. So there's a lot of information out there, guys. You just got to search it and be willing to try. But I will tell you this, it's not easy. It's going to take you a lot of time to learn this stuff. So just stick with it, or if you're willing to learn it, you will go really, really far, because there's not really many people getting into doing this. Nobody wants to take the effort to actually learn something like this. So yeah, so take it with what you will and just keep practicing, and you will eventually get there, just like I have done over the course of a couple decades. And you'll eventually get it. It'll eventually click in your head of what you need to do as you're doing it to pull something off. So just keep that in mind. And if you have anything you want to know in the comments, or you just want to chit chat in the comments, comment down below. I will try to get to you as fast as I can. And yeah, I'll answer any questions you have. So don't hesitate to post in the comments. Like I said, there's not many people commenting down below. So comment down below. We'll chit chat, like the video, subscribe, and we'll get this channel going a lot farther than what it is right now. We need to get the subscriber count up to at least a few thousand, so that way the view time can go up. And once your view time goes up, that's when YouTube will actually start sharing your stuff to everybody, rather than you having to look for it. So yep, do all that stuff, and we'll get this stuff rolling. We'll start doing more cool stuff. I'll try to find more time to actually post more videos. Right now I'm doing probably 1 video a week, maybe 2 if I'm lucky. So just hang in there with me. But as soon as I start seeing volume come in, as people watching it and liking it and subscribing, then it's just going to make me much more excited to post more videos. So we'll try to get this ramped up to where I'm posting a few videos a week rather than just 1 or 2. So I appreciate you guys hanging in there. We'll get this thing going, like I said, and I will see you on the next one. And until next time, guys, we're going to knock this thing out. It's going to be really, really cool. It's going to be one of a kind piece, and I think it's going to be really, really something neat. So thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.